hope y'all are ready for a bloodbath today, cause the walls, the ceiling, the floor, and you are going to be painted fucking crimson. We're covering the metal thumping Splatterhouse today. But before I get into it, I want to give a shout out to Shadowleggy for the great artwork on this video. And with that done, let's don the mask and inspire some terror. Dating all the way back to 1988, Splatterhouse is one of the OGs of the beat-em-up genre, and heavily inspired by Lovecraftian and body horror. I mean, just look at some of these fucking beasts. That doesn't scream fucked up, I don't know what does. This game specifically is a reboot/remake of the original '88 game, including starting the story in a similar manner, though arguably with more style, sporting a metal soundtrack and much more blood. Originally being developed by Bottle Rocket until Namco cut them from the project and took back their console development kits, it's a wonder this game even came out at all, even with several delays. Now helmed under a Namco internal team with some Bottle Rocket members later hired on to help finish it, Splatterhouse 2010 is a blood-soaked, heavy metal blaring beat-em-up with heavy HP Lovecraft themes in the story, enemies, and world. You are Rick Taylor, teamed up with the Terror Mask to get revenge on Dr. West for killing you and kidnapping your girl to sacrifice to his dark gods and bring back his wife. Well, who is the Mask? I'll let him tell you.
Who am I? Let's just say I'm God. Your God. At least the only God that's listening right now. What do I want? Same as any God. Little faith. For without faith, I am nothing. And without me, you're fucked.
Personally, I like the story. It's fun, a nice way to incorporate the original while also expanding upon it drastically, and the motivation of you and the mask sync up nicely to fuck up whoever gets in your way and get your revenge on those who wronged you. And the ending as well, what you make of it. I'm not gonna spoil it, but it's one of those love it or hate it sorts. Oh boy, God, is this a damn treat to play in my opinion. The sounds of enemies being crushed, ripped asunder, the impact you feel as your foes are sent flying across the room, only for them to splatter against the wall. Watching them split apart and even beat their friends to death using their pieces, all while everything's coated a nice shade of red. You've got weapons you find throughout the environment such as 2x4s, pipes, cleavers, shotguns, chainsaws, and more. And a decent variety of enemies to slice, dice, and split down the middle. There's brutal finishers that when you weaken a foe enough, you can get close to them and do a variety of things, such as ripping them in half, ripping their arms off and using them to bludgeon their allies with, popping their heads and pulling out their lungs. The gameplay is rock fucking solid. Not to mention there's a good variety of special moves, combos, and abilities that are at your disposal, along with an upgrade system fueled by, you guessed it, blood, which lets you unlock and strengthen your death-dealing powers. This isn't even mentioning the fact you actually get 4 games for the price of 1. That's right, with this game, you also get the original 3 Splatterhouse games, which makes this one nice deal, even if you just want to play them. I've noticed a lot of reviews state issues with the controls, but I haven't really noticed much from my perspective. The only thing I guess is the QTEs, which can feel a bit derpy, especially if you accidentally miss it. But that's more from me not liking QTEs much. Although I can tolerate them in a high-paced, action-packed sort of game, as that's the sort of environment where it's more fitting for a reflex test to be. The controls feel fine to me either way, and I don't think I've really been killed by bad controls. Demons, Lovecraftian minions, poor, corrupted, and tortured humans. and even callbacks to earlier Splatterhouse enemies. There's a decent variety of foes in this game, though at times it can feel like there could be more, as you'll fight a lot of them through the game. Though that's sort of a given due to the fact it's a beat 'em up, and you tend to see a lot of repeat enemies in those. Though what enemies you do see look pretty great. They look grotesque and horrifying. Personally, I find it really cool. And even cooler to see those designs get slightly less ugly when you pop their head into red jello. Oh boy, this is a strong area. Due to the mask, the music, the blood, the visual designs, the game's atmosphere is great. Dr. West's mansion is a nightmare, mashing his ancient abode with tentacles, flesh walls, dungeons, and more. And exploring it, there's a lot of details, especially in the gramophones hidden around that detail more background information.
You never forget your first kill.
This area is even better than the last, with a solid original soundtrack and a killer licensed soundtrack. The game sounds great. From Five Finger Death Punch to Cavalera Conspiracy, there's a lot of solid songs that blare throughout the experience, and the music, while great, isn't even the best part of this section. Personally, I'd say Jim Cummings' voice as the Mask is phenomenal. He sounds like he's enjoying every minute of it. Every sadistic, hedonistic, and outright bloodthirsty word that comes out of the Terror Mask, as you drain your foes and slay anything in your path, and provides a nice counterbalance to the nerdy Rick, who is understandably freaked out in this situation. The graphics are slick as fuck, both visually and bloodily. The cel-shaded style of visuals makes it look like a comic come to life, and really help the game's visuals both stand out and last a lot longer. Personally, I find games with a unique style, games like Splatterhouse, Sly Cooper, Jak and Daxter, visually hold up much nicer than, say, games that tried to look hyper-realistic back in the day and just don't look so hot anymore. And god does the game look nice. Especially the hyper-violence, watching your character become damaged and heal said damage, regrowing limbs as the flesh and bones come back, seeing the rips and tears and bones exposed on your character. It looks dope. Now, there are some instances where the frame rate can dip, though I rarely ever notice them. The biggest issue, however, is load times can be pretty lengthy, which kinda takes you out of the action sometimes, and a few visual glitches I encountered on my second run through, such as accidentally spawning a second Rick for a cutscene. Well, the downsides are pretty obvious. Certainly those damn load times that can take a while, those visual bugs that are just kind of fucking funny, the frame rate hiccups can be annoying, the enemy variety could definitely stand to be stronger, the QTEs have always been a pet peeve of mine in all video games, and the ending is definitely divisive. Personally, I didn't mind it, but some people really hated it. But overall, still a very, very fun game for me. To quote The Mask, I could say I'm not enjoying it, but I'd be lying! There is very few games I've really gotten into in the last few years, but dear God, I decided to get drunk, live stream this game blind for Spooktober this year, and it was one of my best decisions in a while. I had so much fun enjoying the metal and blood-fueled ride that it lasted for 8 hours and I got to the final boss. What I'm trying to get across with that is I really enjoyed the game. Despite its flaws, I was able to sit down and binge the entire game in one sitting. That's a pretty solid game in my opinion. Now that we're done here, I'd like to give one last shout out to Shadowleggy. Thank you for the artwork. And I'd like to encourage y'all to check them out below, as well as my Discord, Patreon, and other social media. I hope y'all like the video. I'll see you next time.